Hi, this is James Melendez, James the Wine Guy, here to share and celebrate New Mexico wines with you. So I have a very emblematic bottle, which is Grape, distributed in, as far as I know, all 50 states. Now, I bring this forward because New Mexico has a longest lineage of United States wine grape growing and production since about 1629, even way before it becomes a United States state. In 1629, you have the Spanish settlers coming in the area, and with that comes the Catholic Church and the requirement for sacramental wines. Hence begins the story of wine in this area, primarily in the Rio Grande Valley. Now, you have Franciscan friar Garcia de Zuniga brings his plantings to southern New Mexico, starts a production, and it was an upward slope at that point, culminating into the 19th century to about 3,000 acres of wine grapes that are being produced. And then that is equivalent to about 1 million gallons or 3.8 million liters. Now you have, say, another decade later, decade and a half later, turn of the century, you have issues with flooding the Rio Grande because that's a primary place for vineyards in New Mexico at that point, and really decimates the industry. Then you have, say, another decade and a half later, you have Prohibition. Prohibition does another, just really wipes out the industry. You do have a continuation of sacramental wines being produced, and until the 1970s, you do have a renaissance. So this example here, very well-known example, is something to bring out, and really is a great story. Now I'll show you on a map New Mexico's wine grape growing regions. It's a very big state, and so basically along the Rio Grande here is the wine grape growing region primarily. Also Deming, which is right there. And so you have Deming and southern New Mexico. You're going to see T or C here, and that's where Grape Winery gets their wine grapes from, sourced from their own vineyard. So and they're transported up I-25 to Albuquerque. So you do have a few producers in upper New Mexico, northern New Mexico rather, southeast New Mexico, and one producer west of Albuquerque, Guadalupe, and one in the Four Corners region. So a very, very big state, and basically what you find until the Renaissance in the late 70s, current production is about 350,000 gallons or 1.3 million liters, which is about just 1/3 of what it used to be, say, 100, 125 years previous. So you do have great diversity in New Mexico, and I'll tell you just a little segue into the Grape Winery, because I think it really completes the story, or it just adds to the story a bit more. You have Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, Sangiovese, Pinot Noir, Nebbiolo, Dolcetto, Rufosco, Barbera, Merlot, Petit Syrah, Syrah, Tempranillo, Cabernet Franc, Sangiovese, and Petit Verdot. And on the white side, you have Gewürztraminer, Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc, Malvasia Bianca, Muscat Canelli, Pinot Gris, Viognier, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, and there's about 45 wineries. So I think I bring this example out because, first of all, it's most recognizable from any wine consumer in the United States has probably heard about this wine or has tasted it. It's available on many wine lists I've seen in the United States, in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, and so forth, and here in San Francisco. And I think it's something that's great quality, it's a great price point, and it's a proposition for a lot of people who want to enjoy sparkling wine more often. Now, I bring this out is because the story of Gilbert Grape coming into New Mexico in the early 80s and meeting and just exploring the landscape and pondering upon, first of all, he comes from Champagne, so he's going to want to produce sparkling wine in New Mexico. At that point, nobody has been doing that. In fact, I don't know of any other winery that had been a sparkling wine house before this. So that, first of all, it's a difficult thing to do, even today, and it's something that has a great commitment. So when you think of that, that's just probably everyone's telling him you can't do it. Maybe his fellow European winemakers were saying it's a great terrain, it's a great land for this, it's a great climate. And so then he plants Pinot Noir and Chardonnay along the Rio Grande in Truth or Consequences, or south of there. And has been subsequently, actually his children now, Laurent and Natalie, are producing Grape wines at this point. And I think that's just a great testimony to have that fortitude to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create the sparkling wine in New Mexico. Nobody would have thought at the time that that was possible. And so it's great insights of individuals who make things like this happen. And then I bring up a producer in San Fidel, which is very high elevation, I don't know of any other example in the entire world where you have Riesling and Gewürztraminer planted about 6,500 feet above sea level and dry styled wines. Now, I've tasted through a lot of New Mexico wines, and a lot of them are on the residual sugar side, so a little sweeter or off dry. And I do believe that if you bring down the sugar levels just a bit, you're going to get to that consumer who's really seeking a dry wine. Of course, doesn't mean you can't have a sweeter wine, doesn't mean you can't have an off dry wine. It just means I think the modern taste right now is really desiring for a dry wine. And great opportunity ahead. So that's why I bring out Guadalupe, and that's why I bring out this particular producer. Doesn't mean that other producers are not good. Does not mean that they don't produce a beautiful wine. It just means I think that these are just point outs of particular wineries. I will talk about more wineries in the future from New Mexico, but these are just two of the features. And to highlight what can be done in New Mexico in the future, I think it just has a, just definitely has something that has legs to it, if you will, and has a provenance, a heritage, a history, and something you're going to see much more of, I believe, in the future. For more wine reviews, please go to jamesthewineguy.com. Please subscribe to my videos on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, Google+, Pinterest. Salud.